good morning, and or afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions podcast.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura. Nice to see you again this week. I am owner of a virtual assistant project management agency that is here to help small business owners build their business with confidence, knowing that they have a team behind them to help them out with all of the things. And that's Oda.
Yep, and I'm Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions, and we help female entrepreneurs with project and event management. We're a heart-centered company, so we work with you to help you achieve your mission in the most authentic way possible. Um, and project and event management, like Laura and I do really similar things. And instead of competing, we decided to work together and help each other.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
People are always like, well, how do you do that? Because we are two separate businesses. I think people tend to think that we're combined, but we're not. We're two separate businesses.
We partner on a lot, though. Like we partnered
Yeah.
on this, and this is growing, and we partner on other stuff.
Yeah. And that's always the neat part is we didn't know how, we just knew we would. So it's been evolving through the years and just kind of becoming what it's becoming. It's really great because I think when we were trying to control it or say we'll do this or we'll have it this or do this, it seems again inauthentic. We've just kind of washed our hands of it, see where it goes, and it fell into place quite nicely. So and kind of proved, kind of what we're normalizing is that we don't have to compete. We can work together and it's a much better outcome, and I guess when the universe puts it together, it's better than what our minds do. So,
And I think that it's really cool because the more that we model this can work. You don't have to worry about people stabbing you in the back. And I want to clarify, because this came up recently,
oh no,
that we haven't, it isn't like we haven't experienced that.
right?
We have.
Yeah.
We have been stabbed in the back. We have been stolen from. And it made us cling to each other, for lack of a better analogy, more so because I know I can trust you and you trust me.
Yeah.
And another clarification. Yes, we do have agreements in place. So if something were to happen,
Right.
like for me, I have things in place that, so if I get hit by a bus, my business doesn't just stop.
Right.
Right. And so the same thing here. This podcast won't stop just because one of the two of us is sick or dies or whatever. Like just decides I don't have the space for this anymore. But though I can't imagine, like, this is like one of my most favorite things to do. I'll be honest.
Exactly. Angelique
What
loves.
about
I love
you?
the
Like,
podcast.
do you look forward to it? Like, I look forward to it.
Yeah, I do. Because it's a break from the conversations and the things that go on in business and brings us all together for that kind of coffee table conversation. And what do we, hang out with the ladies, kind of conversation. So that's always nice to when you're coming together with people. And whether it's two or three of us on the screen, or the audience, is listening and they're engaged with it in the moment that we're going live. Either way, it definitely brings us together and we have it set. So it's like, okay, we know we're going to be doing this and having these great conversations.
And we've had one other podcast that I can remember off the top of my head where we had two guests. And we have one coming up where there's two guests and they're women that work together. I want more of that. So if you are listening and you're doing this, please reach out to us. Get on the podcast, because man, would I love to see more women saying, yes, we're doing this. We're doing it successfully. Nobody's killed each other. Nobody is, what I mean. You know what I mean? Like this collaborating thing is a good thing.
It is. Absolutely.
Love it. And I do want to honor the fact that, yeah, it is hurtful when you trust someone or bring them into the fold, so to speak, and they take advantage of you.
Mhm.
And I'd love to talk about that one day. So, note to self, hey, Melissa, if you're listening, um, please make that a topic in the future. And even if, we just, you and I talk about it, but it
Yeah.
would be great to have like a really nice panel for that. All right,
That's
let's move on. Let's get
all
the
right.
let's get the party started here.
So we have a great guest with us today. Angelique's going to bring her up, and her name is Isabel Bagsik, right? Uh-oh, you brought her up.
We forgot to ask again.
Yes, Bagsik.
Good. Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, it's Isabel Bagsik. So
Okay, perfect.
emphasis on the second part.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And she is a soulful brand designer and creative wellness guide. She helps heart-led visionaries and revolutionary leaders like you to launch your innovative projects and get paid for your culture-shifting creative gifts. She designs authentic and attention-grabbing brand assets for your website and social media. She helps you to prioritize the strategies that bring your creative visions to life while honoring your well-being in the process. Isabel's unique methodology incorporates creative rituals, best practices, and an original personalized design strategy. She spent 10 years designing for high profile businesses, brands like Google and Target, organizations like CAIR, CARE, and Lead Filipino, and University of California, Davis. Changemakers like Stephen Curry and Michelle Obama, and she also launched a successful magazine, Brown Papaya. During this time, she also developed her wellness practices, leading her to discover an effortless and pleasurable branding process that she applied to successfully launching her current business. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Excited.
And
This is her morning, her good morning. So we're starting her day off just bright and
yeah,
early.
that's what I was just
Yeah.
gonna say. Laura, we just like think alike. And so that's what I was just going to say is Isabel is in California. She is said when she came on, she was really excited about starting her day with us. And so I was like, oh, that's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
right. What an honor. What an honor that is. So, Isabel, we chit chat before
Mhm.
and we kind of, like, hey, this is how we do it. We're kind of like, we don't have a script. We just kind of outline stuff. And then half the time we don't even really stick to the outline. But if we do, these are the kinds of things we'd like to talk about. Um, so I want to start with your story. You had something happen back in 2022. Can you believe it's been 2
Mhm.
years?
Yeah, it's so wild. Like every time that time comes up, like the anniversary, quote unquote, it's like, wow, that happened. It feels so long ago, yet so recent.
Yeah, it's still fresh. That's how I feel. We were talking about a group of women talking about COVID and how on one hand, it feels like it just happened. And
Mhm.
on the other hand, it feels like it was forever ago.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm sure there's psychology and all of that. But so talk to us, share your story with us. What happened back
Yeah.
in 22?
Yes. So I was experiencing these palpitations at the like springtime of 2022 that I've never experienced before. I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to the
And how
ER.
old are you?
Um, that right now I'm 30.
You're in your
So
20s and you're having heart palpitations. All right.
yeah, so I was like, "What is this?" I was so scared. But it was only until the 3rd day that I was like, "Okay, maybe I should go to the ER because it hasn't gone away." But they couldn't figure out anything. Several tests, after, I don't know, a couple months, consultations, all of these things, nothing wrong with my heart or lungs or anything. Not until I went to get, like, a pap smear. I'm like, "Okay, let me do all the general, like, checks and everything just in case because I'm already here." And that's when my doctor said, "Oh, there's something that we should maybe check because this looks kind of odd for someone who hasn't given birth before. I think she said my uterus was bigger or something a little off. And we come to find after some tests that there was a cyst that was like at my ovary. And that
Mm.
just led to even more doctor visits and tests and so on. And because it didn't go away, it even got like slightly bigger instead of decreasing and shrinking. My doctor said, okay, it's time to get that removed in surgery. And it was just this long, arduous process that whole year of having a mystery diagnosis to finding an answer to now finding out I have to have surgery, which I've never had before. So that was really scary. Even though
Mm.
it's the same day procedure, it's a
Mhm.
routine procedure. For me, I'm like, I've never experienced that. And so it led to this a lot, especially closer to the time of the surgery, a lot of introspection around mortality and all the
Mm.
things that I never got to do or the things unsaid. And through that, I was also supported by some mentors, especially one who I'm grateful for, Siobhan of With Soft Power. And they have been amazing in their background with birth work, being a doula, and like teaching me during this time. It just felt all so timely how the voice, like the actual structure of the vocal cords and I think the vaginal canal are mirrors of each other, and also
Oh,
energetics
I did
wise.
not know that.
Yeah, it's so wild
Mhm.
if you look it up. And then energetics wise too, the voice and the womb are
Mhm.
connected.
Mhm.
And when I also remember this, that my doctor would say when I would get a pap smear to breathe deeply so that my muscles would relax. And so there's that connection too, that when you relax or breathe there in your voice, even your I don't know which muscles exactly, but somewhere in your pelvic floor relax as well. And so there's
Mm.
all this really incredible connection
Yeah.
that I was discovering and reflecting during that time is that I've been playing small creatively, playing small in my career, not using my voice in the way that honors my voice, my creative energy. And so moving through recovery afterwards, I vowed to myself that I would pursue my creativity, my passion projects, not regret, not do anything that I would say, like, I wish I did that. I wish I said that. I wish I wouldn't want to have the I wishes or those regrets, knowing that I had like, some kind of experience being in the operating table and knowing that I have this deeper appreciation for even my body and rest as well. There was this really felt sense of having to move slowly, having to learn how to receive care and support from my family as I was not able to move or even like all these basic things. And then
Yeah.
appreciation for the mundane, my breath, the sun on my lids, because I was finally able to get out of bed and walk downstairs and go outside. So it was this 2 week, yet several months kind of intensive of appreciation for me, for life, and to honor what is inherent and so true to who I am. That sure, creativity is an incredible gift to embrace, but for me, it's kind of this huge life essence, life force that I have to be doing. That if I'm not exercising it regularly or sharing it or expressing it out of my body, even if it's for myself, it gets stagnant. It
Mhm.
like becomes toxic
Mhm.
and it just does not feel good and all of these other things.
Mm.
So ever since then, I've just dove in, just all in on whatever it is that comes to mind and allowed me to embrace courage to be witnessed, to be seen as I share my creativity because a lot of things that do get created come from a vulnerable place, from introspection, from reflection. Um, so yeah, that's a little recap of that
Mhm.
experience from then.
So, was there anything specific or particular or special as you were going through this period of rest where you couldn't create
Mm,
necessarily?
yeah.
But there's lots of stuff going on because, especially as women, our brain is always going,
Mhm,
right? Our
mhm,
brain's always
yeah.
going. Were there ideas, or did this sense of rest, did it allow your brain to your creativity specifically? What did it do for your creativity?
Yeah. So during that
Sorry
time,
about the cat.
no, all good. We welcome all visitors, all guests. So, yeah, this is something that I've come to have to practice and reflect on time and time again. It's this ongoing practice of rebalancing my work,
Mm,
my rest, and it's never hit this perfect end goal, but it's this incredible practice or exercise. And so it's always, I think, what it comes down to, because so many people have different kinds of responsibilities and things like that. How can I, when I think about my practice, find a moment of rest in this very moment, or find a moment of presence in this very moment? If I only have 5 minutes in between Zoom meetings, then can I remember to not have shallow breathing, which tends to happen when I'm like so in my head, but
Mhm.
actually have intentional deep inhales and exhales where I bring awareness to the air going through my nostrils, through my throat, and coming out through my nostrils again. And maybe it's a hand on my heart, hand on my belly, and just having that kind of moment of rest, even quickly. It doesn't have to always be a 30-minute nap or this luxurious bubble bath. Those are wonderful to have. But I always think, what are the ways that can be accessible or achievable in what I can't, in what is present to me now? So those are things that I try to remember, that even if I don't have quote unquote the time to rest, that I still honor or bring awareness to my body, to my heart, to my mind. Um, and when I can have longer periods of rest, rest can also be active. It doesn't have to be the typical vision of meditation, though that is a wonderful practice to have. There is walking meditation. There
mm,
is
mhm,
moments where you can be moving or doing something that maybe you need to dance or sing or whatever that is for you to re energize you, or to bring in whatever you need to resource yourself, to bring yourself back to neutrality, or just like feeling resourced, whatever that
Mhm.
may be. And when I have gone to that point of feeling resourced, feeling rested, then thoughts or ideas or solutions can come so much more easily. So if you
mm,
think about the saying, "Oh, I got my best ideas in the shower," it's because you're
yeah,
not connected to your phone, you're not connected to technology, you're just with your mind, and you're
Yeah.
not thinking, you're not actively thinking about anything. Your subconscious is doing a lot of that work for you. So if you were
Yeah.
to work with that, you can really, if you're working through a problem or some situation that you're trying to resolve, oftentimes we think we have to work harder and
Mhm.
longer to do quote unquote better work. But
Mhm.
if we actually just stepped away from the work and did something totally unrelated, or just let ourselves have the space for our subconscious to do a lot of that work, and we
Yeah.
can find that we can invite in more ease, and it feels so much lighter too. How can we tick off those boxes that we have to do and let our subconscious help us in that way, and also help our bodies restore itself and get energized in whatever it needs.
Makes
so
sense.
just out of curiosity, how long a period did you go without creating?
Ooh, yeah. So I
Mhm.
feel like I would say maybe almost 3-ish years during the height of the pandemic, actually. I was doing so much and doing all these facilitating events and collaborating up until 2019. And once 2020 hit, kind of like, everything kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of uncertainty and all of these things. And my priorities shifted, my health, my family, and my creativity was put on the back burner. And during those years, I would see peers and people that I admired doing all these incredible projects or these other ways of expressing themselves or pursuing their creativity. And it was amazing, but there was something that felt blocked, kind of like plugged, and I just couldn't get myself to create. And there was a lot of focus and energy on my career. And so that kind of took one of the priorities of health, family, career, and that was it, because there's a lot of that uncertainty again during this time. And so I wasn't I wasn't moving in the same way that I used to. And even if I would move from, like, okay, I finished my job, I would be hosting an event and I have to take the train to get there and all these things. And I might have had a full calendar or whatnot. But by doing those things, it really lit me up. I was really excited, it really filled my cup. And then I wasn't doing that anymore. And so those about 3 years of not really expressing my energy in that same way, I was finding it in pockets, but not in the way that really energized me and kind of like almost like a battery, like restored in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it I'm sure it must have manifested into not just the cyst, but other ways of um, joy in the same way, or this yearning for community that I was missing, especially when I was doing so many things in person. And so in those few years, it just felt like my creativity was shrinking, or that connection to that energy was shrinking or just unused, getting rusty. And so it's been, especially since the surgery, it's been this tending to that part of me again,
How
nurturing
long
that part
after
of
the
me.
surgery did you start to create again?
Yeah, I would say it would have been. What's funny is that I actually got laid off from my job the following spring. There was a few layoffs happening, and I was part of that. And what was amazing is that I can distinctly remember when I was being told, I was actually excited in my body. It was this visceral, like, exhale, like
Relief.
freedom in a way. Yeah. And I was grateful that I've had a savings so that I had something that could support me during this transition. But I think it was this visceral knowing that,
Mm.
okay, it's time to go
Yeah.
all in and exploring what you've been wanting to do for yourself, not just part-time, not just as a hobby, but take it seriously. And so that was this really loud message and feeling in my body in
Right.
that
I
moment.
love that you say that it was a very physical reaction,
Yes.
because that's often, um, and somatic work right now is also
Yeah.
gaining, hate to say the word, but popularity,
Yeah.
right? Like it's more mainstream than it used to be.
Mhm.
Used to be, it was just for those crunchy people, right?
Yes.
And, and then you just saw it out on the East Coast and the West Coast, but you didn't really see it and it's starting to, become more acceptable, mainstream,
Mhm.
kind of thing. Um, so you had started after the surgery, you started creating, but you weren't all in. That's kind of what I was hearing.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of kind of warming up my muscles again and getting comfortable with what that looks like now, because I wasn't doing in-person things. I was figuring out the focus of what I wanted to explore and share with people or invite people into. And so it was kind of like dipping my toes back into parts of what I was doing and testing the waters. Like, it's been a while since I've kind of promoted anything or any workshops, things like that. Does anyone even know that I did that before? So yeah, it was like this slow, gradual process of experimentation in that way, and also having my body feel safe to do that again, to get familiar with that feeling.
And then the universe conspired for you
Yes.
and said, it's I think it's cool is this is a common theme,
Mhm.
right? This is actually what happened to me as well. Like I knew I wanted to do something different. And I started to move in that direction. And I'd always known.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got laid off.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and it worked out to my benefit
Yeah.
because I was already, in this frame of mind of okay, I need to create a plan so I can make this what all I do. Because I love it so much and I've always wanted to do this and I've always done something like this, but I've never gone all in. And then here, boom, here's an opportunity for you to go all in.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm realizing now too that, there are other things that happened in my life that are still steering me. And, the universe is still conspiring to put me where I need to be, even if I do it kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like,
You kind of have. So, yeah. I think because we did the move before COVID. So we were already somewhat isolated. We moved from Colorado to Oklahoma before COVID. Um, and was really just starting to settle in. We've been here about a year and a half. So it was finally where we might be going out to finally meet people or to just really get comfortable in our surroundings. Then COVID hit. So it was interesting to me that we had this time beforehand to isolate and pull back into what it was we were doing as a family. And then COVID hit. So for us, the isolation of COVID it was pretty normal because we were just, we were already kind of in that more isolated, my son coming home from school, a little different, where he actually thrived at home. And, um, but it was very interesting because that's, leaving corporate beforehand and getting settled into a whole new place and then having that happen where everybody's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden their lives went from busy to nothing's going on, and now they're forced to sit with their thoughts and what's going on inside and all the things like that. It's gonna happen. And I giggled because at the beginning of COVID I was like, well, we'll see where kind of everybody lands at the end of this, because I don't know too many people that had spent that much time with themselves before that point, or just in their own vicinity of people for that amount of time. That's a lot. And it's very interesting. Creativity came up for me, for my son, for us as a family. And then realizing once we slowed down and when it was all over and we could go back out, we didn't return to the same kind of life we'd had. Everything just kind of went back to, this is now our norm. We're okay with this. We're fine as a family. We don't have to fill every single minute of every single day doing something as productive, right? Something productive. It can be completely unproductive, and that's okay. And relaxing and being able to have that. So it was very interesting that COVID gave, I think for a lot of people, it was you've never shut yourself off. You've never shut down. You've never paid attention. You can't hear what's going on in the universe if you don't ever stop, ever.
Mhm.
And I think it was kind of like a worldwide stop, pay attention. This is what's going on, and get okay with whatever new changes happen and go from there. Instead of just the waiting for everything to return back to the way it was. because I do know a lot of people that, okay, well, life's back to normal now, and this is what we're doing. And I'm like, all the things you learned during that time are just gone. Okay, great for your life. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing for me to say to it. Mine would never return to the way that it was. Like, it was great in that moment, but our lives are much different now. And I'm ecstatic about that.
Right.
So,
In a good way. In a
yeah.
good way.
Yeah.
Different in a good way. One of the things we often talk about here is abundance mindset. And I really liked your take on that. Because for you, it was more of a connecting with this infinite potential. Like it's always there, it's available to us. We're in our own way a lot of the times. But we also have other things that are in our way, right? Like blocks, challenges. What's the word? Um, the belief systems that we have. Um, and trauma. Practice, the practices that we have that aren't healthy or nurturing or restorative, those kinds of things. Getting out of survival mode, right? And creating this spaciousness, right? Which I love what you said too about it being rest, not necessarily being like in bed or being on the couch or like, but it's also just this spaciousness, allowing yourself space to do whatever feels healing and restorative to you. So what was all of that like for you during that time?
Yeah. In terms of connecting with abundance mindset, especially during the height of the pandemic, I was doing a lot of that, what Laura was saying about this introspection with the self. I was diving deep into my spirituality, diving deep into exploring what it means to connect with my ancestors. And so there was a lot of that happening too. And again, with connecting with abundance mindset, it's this remembering that, yes, it's this a wonderful, beautiful concept of connecting with our infinite potential that is always with us, but also getting, having this awareness that there are these external factors at play as well in this complex society that we are experiencing, living in, where people have different access to resources, different, which affects their access to rest or spaciousness to rest, and all these other systemic issues. And so, unfortunately, New Age spirituality is all focused on love and light and positive vibes only, and thinking, oh, it's just your mindset. But it's all these other things too. And so what it's important for me to name and also remember for myself that yes, mindset is a powerful thing to work with. And can you be mindful and aware of what you have access to and what how you're being affected by societal issues and systems and the traumas that you're experiencing and holding on as well. And so it's all this nuanced conversation, but in terms of how you might be able to approach abundance mindset, and how I have too is maybe finding those small steps to dip your toes into once again. And something that I think about is a gratitude practice. Can you wake up or go to bed listing out, let's say, 3 things that you're grateful for? And maybe it's a practice that you can't really embody. You're like, I don't know about this. But the more that you can practice
What was it
regularly.
like for you? Like, what were the
Yeah.
practices that you had at that time? Maybe you
Yeah.
didn't even recognize them as that, but
Right.
what was your experience?
Yes. So there's that, the gratitude practice. And for example, thinking about, especially let's say during my surgery, I'm thankful that I can get up in bed without help because it was difficult to move my core. Because I'm like, oh, now I know which muscles are getting used for certain actions. And I'm grateful for being able to get sun on my face because I was in bed for quite a few days, and I didn't realize how juicy that felt. Like, wow, the sun hitting my eyelids, that felt so good. And it kind of, and in my mindfulness meditation teacher training, we learned that compassion, or yeah, I was learning that compassion helps with neuroplasticity in the brain too. And when we can be in that practice, it actually, changes our brain
Was
for
this
the
something
good.
you were doing during that time?
Yeah, there was so gratitude helps with compassion, changing how I with that, it affected how I interacted with my family and loved ones, practicing compassion for the self, practicing compassion for others, finding ways that I could tithe and donate to organizations or charities or mutual aid funds, especially during times where people were losing folks to COVID and other
Mhm.
situations globally. Um, yeah, so there's so many beautiful ways to practice compassion, even compassion meditations focus on that, for
Mhm.
example. So those are some starting points that could be supportive to try out for folks who are new to it, um, when thinking about being in touch with your compassion and being able to uh, increase your neuroplasticity in your brain. And I feel like so connected to that abundance mindset because it takes a practice. It's not a one and done thing that you just do
Right.
one manifestation script or journaling prompt and then all your dreams come true. It's this
Right.
constant connection to that energy. And can you actually feel it? Feel this like warmth or expansiveness in your heart space or wherever that might be for you when you're connected to that feeling.
I love what you said about the new age spirituality, where it's about the love and light and abundance and those kinds of things, and it's about the mindset. And we tend to get kind of strapped into that, like it's all love, it's okay, and we think anger and disappointment and depression doesn't come with that. And we hear a lot about just positive thoughts, love and light, love and light. And I
The
love that
toxic
part of it. But
the
yeah, it can
toxic
be
positivity.
right. It can definitely get to a point where it's like, yes, being grateful for the things that you have, that is the way to go. But it doesn't mean not being grateful for the fact that, okay, I had a moment which wasn't my best moment and I was angry and I reacted badly. um and later, upon introspection of the situation that happened, I probably did the best thing for me by reacting the way that I did, because I learned from it. I figured out what was
Mhm.
going on. I found the deeper lying of what was happening. And I hate always getting stuck on that. I'm someone too. I've always been a really positive person. I really do smile all the time. People are like, you cannot be that happy. And I'm like, well, I'm not always that happy, but I am always a pretty positive person, even in the most negative of times. Um, but it's still, I give myself permission to be like, oh no, I'm angry. I am right now. And this isn't going to come out well for anyone involved.
And that's
But
kind of where the compassion comes in, right?
Yeah.
absolutely. I love that. And I'm just glad that you touched on that, because I think we do think positivity, and yes, that is the way, and compassion and gratitude and all that, but we always think of it as this, it's always got to be on the most positive thing.
Mhm.
There are times when I am grateful for a challenge. It's been presented to me, and people are like, what do you mean you're grateful to it? I'm like, if I wasn't presented that, I wouldn't have a way of dealing with that.
Hmm.
And so yes, I am grateful for even the things that are not so positive.
Well, and that's why
Yeah.
we do this, is because these challenges, these hurdles, these experiences that we have as individuals aren't completely individual.
Right.
We experience them as we experience them as an individual.
Hmm.
but other people can relate. But they
Oh, yeah.
can only relate if we talk about it.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
They
from
can
there,
only relate if we say, this was what I went through. This is what it brought up for me. This is how I dealt with it, good, bad, or ugly.
mhm.
And other people can go, I remember, like, especially if we're like, we're going through something and we're like, oh my God, this is just what so and so was talking about. Now, what did she say? She said she did this and it didn't come out very well for her. I shouldn't do that.
Right.
Maybe I should try to do it this other way, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the point of
Mhm.
sharing our stories, is
Yes.
being able to learn from each other and encourage each other and just not feel so alone.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
How powerful is that? That's why stories are so important. And using our voice, Isabel, like you said, using your voice, and not just a "I am woman, hear me roar" kind of way,
Right.
but just expressing who we are. I can't
Mhm.
tell you how many times I've seen something on social media and I'm like, oh my God, they're just as goofy as me. I love them, not feel like, oh, I'm not the only one that does that. And how often that happens. You know?
Yeah. I spend a lifetime going, I'm the clumsy one, I'm the goofy one, I'm the airhead, I'm just kind of always out there. And now I've embraced it. I'm like, and there are a lot of people like me that I now see, like they're around me. And then I'm always like, I don't feel as self-conscious as I used to about it. I definitely have embraced that authenticity, even here on the podcast where it's like, I am who I am. It just is what is, and it for me, it's become that permission to really truly be that silly, goofy, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
kid like, or unprofessional, however you want to describe it. I have embraced that in such a big way because I always was just like, I don't like being stiff and this and that. I love being that goofy person, and those that love it, and those that don't, and yay, I don't have to care. I just get to do and be who I am, and if I'm too much for some and not enough for others or whatever, then they figure that out for themselves, which
Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
free because I don't ever have to worry about it anymore. Where,
Well,
spending a lifetime of, do they like me? Those kinds of things. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like me or no, love me or hate me, who
if
knows,
you know, right? Um,
right.
well, Isabel, I want to let you know that the promise you made to yourself, to use your voice courageously, you've done that today for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And you do have something to offer to our listeners, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me again. I'm Isabel Bagsik. I am a soulful brand designer, creative wellness guide for compassionate founders. And so, if this resonated with you and you're looking for a way to connect with your branding in a heart led way, I would love to invite you into my free 3-day email series called Intuitive Brand Refresh. So, if you're curious about what intuitive branding rituals are, you get a ritual and prompts delivered straight to your email, one a day, and you get to really play with these rituals to help elevate your online branding and connect with your soul clients and community. So if you have any questions about that, that'll be in the show notes, or you can connect with me on Instagram at Unconventional Bliss.
Awesome. Yes, and we will drop all the links in the show notes for you guys, to go check that out. I'm going to sign up for it. That's one of the things I love about being surrounding myself with people um, that are different, right? And maybe are a little bit ahead of me in my journey or a little behind me in my journey, right? We can all help each other. There's plenty of stuff out there I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. You may know something I don't know. I'm betting you do, especially when it comes to branding. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. That
Yay.
sounds
Yeah.
really, really good. And so one of the things we like to do here on the podcast is have the current guest introduce the next guest. So next week's guest is Monday at 12 Eastern. Her name is Jen Schultz. I think I'm saying it correctly, Jen. If we say it wrong, you can correct us next time. But take it away, Isabel.
Yes, well, thank you again for having me, and I'm excited to be able to introduce the next guest. So, Jen Schultz is an acclaimed speaker, workshop facilitator, and recognized business owner. With over 13 years of hands on self employment experience, she intimately understands the journey of transitioning from a traditional 9 to 5 job to launching a unique service based business. Following her departure from a teaching position and facing unemployment in one of the world's most expensive cities, New York, Jen tenaciously built her own private education business tailored to students with learning disabilities. Leveraging her intuitive prowess, warm personality, and an unwavering determination to forge her solopreneur path, Jen not only succeeded but surpassed her previous income as an employee. A sought after coach, Jen specializes in guiding individuals fueled by a burning desire to break free from their 9 to 5 jobs and establish unique service based businesses. Her expertise spans diverse sectors, including but not limited to nonprofit, health and wellness, real estate, arts, education, travel, animals, and food. Having empowered countless individuals to pursue their dreams and achieve self employment success, Jen embodies the blueprint for entrepreneurial transformation.
Awesome.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Our announcement this week is, check out our sponsorship options if you're interested in supporting the podcast. We would love to have you do that. And one quick question for you before you go, Isabel. Well, actually, two. I'll be briefly. Um, you mentioned Siobhan. And so, can you do you have a website or anything for her?
Yeah, I can share that in email, but also
Perfect.
if you find Soft Power on Instagram,
Okay.
Siobhan is a co founder of that incredible collective.
Perfect. And if you had one piece of advice that you could give, you can only give one piece of advice to your younger self or to somebody else. What would it be?
Mm. Yeah. Ooh, what a big question. I would say, thinking about what is the thing that feels really scary to you to share or do? And can you challenge yourself and invite yourself to even try a slice of that, even
Mm.
privately, and see that, you're no immediate danger after you've done it. And maybe try it again and keep doing whatever it is, whether it is, sharing poetry that you've never shared before or doing some activity like, I don't know, something wild like skydiving or something. What is the thing that you can slowly work yourself up to and see that it would actually light you up and not repress yourself you know, or box yourself into not experience that pleasure and joy and excitement. And I think
I
that's
love
really
it.
important to remember to reclaim that pleasure, that joy that we are often disconnected from.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. That's great advice.
So thank you again for being with us today and spending about an hour we've been together chatting and sharing and talking. And we look forward to, if you ever want to come back on the podcast, we are always open to having repeat guests. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And for our listeners, thank you for spending this time with us. Whenever you are hearing this, if you've been listening live, thank you. If you have been watching, thank you. If you are getting the replay, thank you. And we appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen in on our little chat.
Yeah.